Comes to the finale, the
Vinny
final.
versus Caverna.
Um, you go
Let's
ahead
do
and take.
this.
Yeah, you take viticulture. I'll take Caverna. Let's do this. You may
All
begin.
right. So with viticulture, it is to me, and there's a reason why it's highly rated on Board Game Geek. It is a great worker placement game, and it does the thing that I was telling you that my problem with Caverna. There is a way you can actually catch up. Like I said, you can use your not your mama and papa's the visitors. The visitors are easy way to get points. You can spend points to help your engine better, getting stuff out there that you need. You can go in, I think it's summer, and trade things, including victory points, to get you resources that you need to help your engine. There's ways to mitigate and help you get back into the game. Whereas in Caverna, once you're halfway through the game and you're at a situation where you're looking at it and it's like there's nothing I can do, I'm gonna start king making because Danny over here pissed me off by taking what I need, so I'm gonna start helping Dom get all the stuff that he needs and make sure Danny can't get anything he needs. In viticulture, there's more mitigation to that issue, especially when you throw in the expansions like in the board in Tuscany and the wake up spot. We haven't even touched on that in the entire debate how that starting track works, which I think is such a great track. It's like you're the first one to retire, so you pull all your pieces off the board, which opens spots for everybody else if they haven't retired yet, and then you get to choose where you want to go on the track. Do you go to 7 to get an extra worker, or do you go to 1 just to make sure you get to start the game at the beginning? So just to make sure you get first choices in each season that you want to go into. And plus, if you want to go second, that's fine. You only get 1 reward. If you go third, you get 2 rewards. If you go all the way to 6, you get these really amazing rewards just because you're not going to be placing out there till after, say, 2, 3, 4 other people. So some of the spots that you want to go to doesn't make sense anymore. So
Okay.
I really love that aspect, especially in that expanded board. And now I just remembered what that other expansion is in the Tuscany Essential Edition, or the expansion, and it's the
Excuse me.
bless you, is the what are they called, the special workers. So you get 2 special workers in a game, and they all have variability, so it could be different from each game as you go along. And one of my favorite ones is where you can go into the future. They'd be like, I'm going to place this guy at this spot, so when I get into it's spring and when I get into fall, that's my first action. I get to do that action. You can't block me off in that time. So I could be going 6. If I had that special worker, I'd be like, all right, I got this set up. I'm making sure I'm guaranteeing that spot for me to do what I need to do. And I
Okay.
think that's just amazingly done. But my big thing with viticulture, as I said before in one of the other ones, you don't need the expansion. It makes it's already a great game as the essential edition, but it only gets better with the expansion.
Okay. All right. So with Caverna, I want to bring up a point that I haven't brought up yet. Is that each of the spots, or the vast majority of the spots, are actually modular, and they grow in different ways. Like the ones that add wood, like 3 wood every turn, like that might not be great at first, but after a while, it's going to start building up, and they become more enticing to the different spots. So that's one of the big things that Caverna does differently than most worker placements, is that it's almost like a life form. Certain parts of it grow, and depending on what people are going for, that might give them an incentive to go, okay, well, I'm going to go for all of these spots and get more
Well,
pieces.
yes and no, because it's kind of the same way as Agricola is,
Right.
except for with this one is tiles rather than cards, and then it's these are the 4 that are coming up, but they can be in any order. That's what makes it different. But these are the same ones that are always going to come up in sections 1 through 3, and these are the same ones that are coming up to sections 4 through 6, and so forth.
Right.
So it doesn't really change that much modular wise. It does say, okay, well, I know this is in there. I just got to find out when is it coming. Is it coming in round 4? Or is it coming in round 6?
Right. That makes sense. Okay, so what I think we would be the best way to determine this is if we broke it down to its core function. And we talk about each little part, like which one is the most true to worker placement, which one gives you the best engine building, which one lets you do, mitigation better. Let's talk about those and let's award points to each of the different uh,
Okay, let me get
things.
something out here.
Yep. So get a notepad
So
and
I'm
say,
just going to use the paper I have. So
okay. And all right.
Vinny versus Caverna. This way we can get the point
Mm-hmm.
system here.
Yep.
So starting with
Let's talk about true worker placement. Um, and we can tie them, of course, if they do make sense.
yeah, they get the
Um,
points here.
I think Caverna, of course, is a very true worker placement. When you go to a spot, it's locked off from the other players. But in viticulture as well, each location has a few spots where you can
And
place it.
it's all dependent upon the player count too. So
Yeah,
if you're playing, let's just say we're playing a full 4-game Caverna and a full 4-game of viticulture. There's 2 spots
right.
per area really in viticulture. There's only 1 spot per area in Caverna.
Gotcha. Okay. So then would we it is variable per player, but it's still open to a lot of things. Whereas like we'll talk about more in the mitigation, but which one do you feel is more true to worker placement?
Well, it depends on how you're doing the definition of the worker placement in an aspect. Are you doing it during the time of Caverna where it's 1 spot that you block off from someone else? Or are you doing it to way worker placements are really working nowadays? And if you look at it, look at all the most recent since viticulture came out and beyond.
Right.
Most of those are open spaces. There's a few like Raiders of the North Sea, but it's more of a putting one down, I'm blocking that spot off, but I'm picking one up, which opens another spot for someone else.
Right.
But there is not really that much blocking off as you're saying
Right.
anymore in worker placements.
True.
Things
Well,
back so
that goes into the mitigation. We'll talk about that in a minute.
okay.
But true, I think Caverna is more honest of a worker placement with
I'll
the
give you
mitigation
that.
aside. Okay. So let's just give one tick to Caverna. But now let's talk mitigation. Because Caverna, their mitigation is simply they have
Selling
other
off your animals to either feed your people.
no, I'm talking like worker placement mitigation. So
I
if I
know, but
take
I'm
your
just saying.
spot, you still have another spot, but it's not quite as good, maybe. Whereas viticulture, if I block your spot, you have a couple options. You could
You
take
can
the
still go to
same
that spot
spot.
in a 4-player game. It's just you're not getting a reward for it.
You're not getting the bonus for timing, but then at the same time, you have your Grande worker, which you
Mm-hmm.
don't have in Caverna.
Yeah, which allows you to still be able to get your ability. You just you could either, and the thing I don't think we've explained, and most people know how viticulture works. The grande worker could be either used as a regular worker and placed out on the board like you would any other worker, or it muscles his way into a spot that is blocked off. So if we're playing a 4-player game, there's 2 spots in, say, planting vines. If both of those spots are taken by you and Dom, I can still put my worker out there, the grande one, not the little one, the big guy,
Uh huh.
and put him out there to still be able to plant. I would have to use him, and that's my special power at that moment, and that's all I can do.
Okay. So yeah, I think I would give the nod to
Yeah, the mitigation,
architecture. Yeah, the mitigation
and
is
it's
really
not
neat.
just on the worker mechanic or worker placement mechanic. There's other mitigation that they can do that they do in there. So
Yeah, I
it's like
let then give a point to architects.
Vidi,
Let's talk or
or Vidi,
viticulture. Sorry,
Vidi.
not architects. Oh goodness, I wouldn't have forgiven myself. Let's talk about board evolution. What changes throughout the game? Like I think that's something worth talking about. Um, the board in Caverna, not only does it change like by adding a new spot every turn, but the amount of resources change, and that I think that has a really good point. Whereas I think viticulture, the fact that you have to choose which workers you continue to the next season is also another interesting part of that.
Yeah, I do like that aspect of it. And then when you're talking about like what changes board wise, I think viticulture does another thing that we haven't touched upon. You have, and Caverna has it too. You have your own personal board that you're working on.
Yes.
With viticulture, For me to plant certain vines, I need certain equipment out there. So I need a trellis or I need an irrigation system. If I want to make more money or get victory points, I need to put a tasting room up if I have wine. If I want to hold more wine, I need to have cellars. If you go into the expansion, I can build buildings that help me. And so, say a place gets blocked off, and this is why I was saying there's more stuff that it does in mitigation. Say planting gets blocked off from me, or harvesting my field gets blocked off from me. If I have a yoke, I can go harvest my field.
Yeah.
If I have the yoke as well, I can actually uproot all the vines in that field and put new vines in there when I plant again.
Okay.
You can also sell one of your vineyards just to get money. That's another variable that you can do to the board. I can basically put only 2 places where I have vines, and then I can sell a vineyard to make some money, or I can build something on that vineyard to give me 2 buildings rather than just the one that you have on the sideboard.
Okay.
The buildings give you new spots as well.
Yeah. Whereas in Caverna, you don't really get new spots other than the board itself changing, but it's available for anybody. Where Viticulture has its own dedicated spots that you have built.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Then I think as far as the evolution, even though I think Caverna's is more innovative, I would have to give it to Viti because of that.
Just because there's so much you can do with it. I can
Yeah.
change my vineyards and stuff like that.
True.
To
Okay.
change the aspect of the game.
Okay. Let's talk about variability then. Like, can you really do different things, or like what's the option or what's the ability to do different outlets to victory in each of the games?
I honestly, more than likely, the points here is going to go to Converna just because of the variability. The big aspect of viticulture, you can win without making wine, but that's the big driving force of the game. Because not only is building wine important to the game, because that's where you're going to get your most victory points,
Yeah.
up to 4 or 5, just depends. But it's also going to be the fact that you also get your money, which helps you buy things later on, because your I forget what that track is called. Your income track, I guess you could say. It's actually called not resources. It's something like that. I can't think of the term. It was in my head and I just lost it. But at the end of the year, that's how much money you're going to get.
Okay.
Residuals. That's what it's called.
Oh yeah. So but where like in Caverna, if you don't want to do, you could win with farming, absolutely. But if you don't want to do farming, you could win with exploration in the caves. But if you don't want to do that, you can win with building your houses. But if you don't want to do that, you can mine and gain more resources. But if you don't want to do that, you could go with the animals. There's about 1 million different paths that to victory that all stand on their own. So I think
like I said,
the variability.
I'm going to give that point to Caverna just because there's so much you can do. My detraction from that, though, is the problem with that is, you can mine and get a lot of your victory points that way, but you got to make sure you do everything else too because of the negative points in that game. The only time you get negative points is in viticulture, is that you choose to take those negative points to pay for something.
Right, and that goes into mitigation. Okay, yeah, that's a good point. Let's talk about engine building.
Viticulture.
Yeah, I mean Caverna.
But because there's so much that you could do, I can set up my plants to be just right, so I'm getting these reds. And the thing, what we haven't mentioned in viticulture is when you go into the end of the year, if you have them down in your crush pads or you have your wines in the cellar, they'll age. So you can set yourself up to fulfill a wine order that you need to do by the next round, because it's like, okay, if I get these down to the crush pad and then move them into my winery, and they're at this point, at the next round, when we go into the next round, they're going to age to where I need to sell them. So if I do this right and engine build this just perfectly, get these down here, make the wine, okay, next round, they're going to be at the aging point that I need. And you can use the end of a round to help you get victory points. And that is something I have not seen in a lot of board games.
Okay, that's a good point. And as far as engine building, sure you have the houses that if you do certain things you get bonuses.
But you have that in
Yeah,
viticulture because you have the buildings. There's a building in there that allows you, instead of going over there to pay 4 coins to get a worker, I can go over here and pay 3 coins to get a worker, and I don't get blocked off over there because I have it over here. I can just go here and I could do that, and I get to use it in that season because he's educated.
yeah. Okay. Yeah,
So there,
I will give that
the,
to viticulture then. I'm trying to think if there are any other topics that we haven't really discussed. I mean, there's accessibility in the theme, but I mean, cave
that's
farming versus winemaking is that
yeah,
how
that's a point. Now, I was going to actually bring that up, but I'm like, it's just the viticulture, just accessibility and drawing people in. It's going to go to viticulture because it's literally more people are going to be interested in that theme than they would cave farming.
I think it's a tie. I think it's a wash, honestly, because I mean, yeah, there's farming and but there's the caves and the exploration and trolls and stuff is a
So
fantastical theme.
here's the best way I can get viticulture at this point. If you went to your wife, and my wife for that matter, and go to them and say, what would you rather play, dwarves, cave farming, or making wine? What do you think they're both going to pick?
Well, our wives, of course, would pick winemaking, but if
Yes,
you
but
go to a game shop,
if you're gonna try to get your wife to play a board game, which theme is gonna do it?
but what if you're trying to play games with like a game group or gamers at a shop? They'd probably pick like cave farming, like with trolls and stuff. I think that's a tie. I don't think we can award the point to either.
You'd be surprised. I probably can get more people to play viticulture than you could probably get to play Caverna at the shop.
I disagree.
So I'm not naming any names, but you know which one I'm talking about. Your artist,
Yeah.
Nate. Well,
Okay.
I need a name, but
Yeah.
he would rather play it. Those guys that like to play all those take that games, they ain't playing either one of those games.
Maybe. Yeah.
I can
Um.
get J and A to play.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I'm telling you,
I could get them to
culture.
play Caverna too. Um. I think we should still have it as a tie.
All right, I'll give you a tie.
Yeah. It's so subjective. It's
But
hard
I'm
to
just
say.
well, it's subjective. But I'm just saying, like, okay, take our wives out of it. Let's use our buddy who we've mentioned before, Bryce's wife. What do you think she would play before she would play?
Stop adding in wives to this.
But that's the big point. And I'm not saying that there's no female gamers. There is, uh, and I'm glad there is. It's getting really, really big in female gaming. I mean, one of the hottest designers is Elizabeth Hargrave. She's got Mariposa coming out that I really want to dig into. Just how much I like Wingspan.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if you're trying to get more people into the gaming, accessibility, viticulture is more accessible to women than it is cave trolls because they have to deal with enough trolls as it is online.
All right. I still think we need to call it as
I'll
a
give you
tie.
the wash. I'm just making a very good point about mine.
Yeah. If we have our wives as the only factor, then yeah, winemaking probably would. All right. Is there any other things that we need to bring up, like bonus points that go to either of them for whatever reason? I think we're
I
pretty.
honestly, this is a big factor. I think components are so much better in viticulture. And table presence in viticulture is so much
Ooh.
better.
No.
Yes. Yeah, and here's why. First off, you have little wooden stands for each one of your things that go on your board. You have a trellis, you have irrigation, you have your wine cellars, you have your cottage, you have your wine tasting. Your meeples look like meeples instead of discs. Both of them are wooden, but they're meeples.
Yeah, but the wooden disc has a picture of the people on it, so that's fine.
It's just a picture.
It's full art versus a plain piece of wood that's colored.
No, the plain piece of wood that's colored is much better than a stupid picture that's round.
I don't think so, personally.
And then those little glass cubes that magnify the numbers is amazing.
Yeah, that's interesting. Those are pretty cool.
If you get the upgraded stuff, like my viticulture's blinged out. I have like the metal coins and stuff like
Yep.
that. But even the regular coins aren't that bad.
But viticulture, miniature cards for your giant hands.
But that's fine because it's not like you're holding a deck of cards in your hands. You have them, you pick them up when you're like, okay, I need to do that. That's it. And you're only having 7 at once.
Right.
Whereas, plus, honestly, viticulture just looks better on the table. More people are going to be interested in looking at viticulture just because of the brightness of color.
Oh, no, the brightness of color is all about it. Caverna. Caverna is bright, but realistically, like, from an art standpoint, yeah, I will give it to viticulture based on that. That's definitely more cartoony. Art is subjective, but component wise, I mean, I think
Honestly,
Caverna.
I'm going to go with points on viticulture here. Caverna, and the big thing for me is you have little meeples that look like people.
But you're forgetting about the animals. You have the pigs, you have the cows, you have the sheep. All of those look like they are. The ore is the plastic gems that are black. The red ones are the rubies. Those are cool.
But you have like
all of the resources look like the resources.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, the wheat looks like wheat.
And
the pumpkins look like pumpkins.
Is colorblind friendly.
So is Caverna.
No, it is not.
Which part was trouble?
There was like some stuff on the tile that were giving me, and then there's a couple of the gems that look they're the red green. But what they don't do about them is they don't make one lighter shade and one darker shade of the red green. That's a big issue. They're kind of like the same dark shade, and I'm sitting there like, which one's which now?
Okay.
When a game makes me keep asking, okay, which one's the green one, I have a problem with.
Okay, that's fair.
Or the fact that I have to have the red ones over here and the green ones over here. This way I could tell which is which because they're on different sides of the board.
Yeah, okay, so you're saying visually appealing, you would vote for viticulture.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I don't disagree with that. I think it's... I understand why people like Caverna. I will give it to viticulture. All right, I think that's about it, isn't it?
A lot of things, too, is more people are gravitated to a more realistic art than they are to cartoony art.
Yeah. Yeah,
especially when
depending
it
on
comes to
the game.
But don't get me wrong. I mentioned Everdell earlier, and that's got like some of the most cartoony art, but it's also realistic in a way, just because you have human animals basically, but it's still such a pretty game.
Right. Okay, I don't disagree with that. And then the very last thing that we can consider that I'm thinking of is ease of play and accessibility. I think they're about the same. They both take the same length. They're both. I mean, maybe Caverna's a little simpler.
Are in the same weight. I guess you could say the way they do it on Board Game Geek, the same weight, where it's not Gateway, but it's just like 1 or 2 steps above Gateway. Where it's a lot more thinky.
Yeah.
I think they're pretty much the same. Thinking people might be able to grasp viticulture just slightly easier. Just because the cards at least explain exactly what the card is going to do.
Right.
And because that's really the only thing there. But when it comes to like, I'm going to go here and get this resources, that's a little harder just because you have to learn the iconography a lot more.
Okay.
And so both of them, I actually say they're pretty much the same. Like I said, just the cards on viticulture just makes things slightly easier because it explains exactly what it does.
Okay. All right. I'm okay with calling that a wash. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they take about the same time to play.
Same length, roughly.
The advantage that Caverna has is that it's a much wider range of people to play, though. I wouldn't suggest that.
By one.
How many can play viticulture? Up to 6?
6.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. All right. I thought it was 2 to 4.
So how much I do. Technically, it's 1 to 6 because they do. And the big thing I can say about viticulture that could, if it was a tiebreaker, that would give it a wash. It's got a solo mode. So does Caverna. Okay, it's got a good solo mode because the Atoma Factory is like, let's put it this way. If anybody says the Atoma Factory built the solo for this game, I am going to be quite interested in it for the solo play as well as the multiplayer because the Atoma Factory is amazing. They do an incredible job.
All right, I don't disagree with that. All right. So that, I think, gives the nod to viticulture, doesn't it? But based on the number of points?
6 to 4.
6 to 4. Okay. All right. Well, then, there we have it. We have decided, without a doubt, according to us, from the games that we've played and that we agree that are in the category, Viticulture is the best worker placement game.
I to me, it is my favorite worker placement game, and it's top two, if not three, of board games. Like if someone says, "Hey, let's play Viticulture," okay, I'm down.
Yeah,
There's only one game that really I would play above Viticulture, and that is Gloomhaven.
yeah, yeah, which makes sense. Which we need to play that again sometime soon. Uh, hopefully.
I
Uh,
still got to get finish my campaign. I'm only 10 games in. I've had then Frosthaven's about to start up.
Yep, yep, exactly. Well, nowadays it'll be a little trickier to do that, but there you go. If anybody watched this or is watching it later on YouTube, feel free to say your comments, say what you thought. Did we get it right? Do you agree with our arguments? Do you have anything else to add to that?
Is Danny wrong?
Nope, nope. If you're asking me that, is Daniel wrong?
No.
Nope.
Hey, like I like to tell my wife, I'm always right, just everybody else disagrees with me.
Well then, until next week, then this has been Everyday Board Gaming, and this has been our debates.